How to make America utopia, take away the economy from those who rigged it. As I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right wing doom. It's worth it. How to talk to your right wing relatives, friends, and neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. And of course, good morning to the world receiving our signals via the magic of the internet, formerly known as the ARPANET, created by whom? Created by you. Controlled by whom now? Controlled by the billionaires, something that we must take back. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great program for you. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I sure did. Worked a lot, but you know what? That's a part of wonderful. Anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and send it to the magical geniuses en el estudio, el señor Howard Reynolds, Jacques Van Beppa.
And Jack is wearing his magician hat today, so he's Magic Jack.
Magic Jack. All right.
Good morning, Egberto. It is Monday morning at the radio, the 19th of May, 2025. And I have a rant this morning.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, I think it is a really good idea that we make sure that these retailers print the shipping cost and the tariff cost on the receipt. I was looking at some of these receipts. A $35 item is now costing $85. They've added $50 to it. And, you're just like, what? This is crazy. And of course, our president telling Walmart to eat the tariff cost. Yeah, that's going to work. So it's a good idea for these retailers to print this on there. It's either under shipping or tariff or duty costs. Take a look at your receipts. And if that company is not doing it, recommend to them that they do. Because this will show you just what your vote did for those who voted for this. And that's my rant this morning.
Love it, love it, love it. What a rant.
Yes, and Jack has a half a page of wisdom here, so probably wiser than my rant.
Well, good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I'm fine, Jack. Talk to me. Good morning, my brother.
Okay, this is your headlines. Privatize the profits and socialize the cost is a conservative mantra. David Frum's analysis of Trump's tariffs is forcing the poor to pay the cost to operate government as the scam of transferring wealth from the bottom to the top. A lifelong con man is, is pulling his biggest ruse on the American people as the people fight for Congress not to cut their Medicaid and SNAP benefits. Trump plans to have a big parade to glorify himself. Oh, boy!
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, a military parade, just like they do in third world countries, since we're going to be one soon.
It is amazing what's going on. But, I think I'm going to follow the order in which Brother Jack just said it, because I have a piece that I did around midnight that I said, this, I want everybody to hear it, because David Frum said it in a manner that was beautiful. Well, actually, let me shut up and just play what I did last night for you guys, and then we'll take it on the other side. Let's go ahead and get busy. I've written a whole lot of blogs and articles, done a lot of videos and shorts on why Trump's tariffs are terrible, especially in the way they are implemented. And I've also pointed out many other tricks that the Trump administration has been using to to make the poor pay for government as the rich continue their parasitic behavior. But I really listened to what David Frum had to say over the last couple of days and what he's written in The Atlantic. And I don't think a probably 3 or so minute segment, anyone has expressed it any better, because he not only spoke about how it works, but he gave it context with the poor relative to the rich. I want you to listen to this because, again, David Frum is a conservative. And I don't agree with him on a whole lot of things. But my God, he nailed it better than any other conservative or progressive could with this little piece right here. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
David Frum, you write about the 4 scams. Explain.
Well, the scams are the fake deal with China, which is no deal, the fake deal with Britain, which is no deal. But I want to pound home a point here as people watch this, because why is the stock market up? The stock market is up because Wall Street has figured out Trump's tariffs, although bad for many people, are not going to be bad for them. Who are they bad for? And this is where we have to understand what a tariff is. A tariff is a tax, but it's a special kind of tax, and it's special in 3 ways. First, it's a tax that can be imposed by the president at his whim. All other taxes imposed by Congress to represent the people. Tariffs can be imposed by the president at his whim. It's a tax that can be exempted by the president at his whim. He can sell special favors. If you want to break in the corporate income tax, you have to get Congress to pass it. But if you want to break in the tariff, just ask the president, buy his meme coin, give him a jet. He'll make a special favor for you. And last, it's a tariff that falls uniquely hardest on the poorest section of society. A tariff is a sales tax, but a sales tax that only falls on goods, not on services. It falls on the doll, not on the nanny that is hired to play with the doll. It falls on the towel, not on the swimming club. It falls on the doorknob, not on the doorman who operates the door. It falls on the poorest people in society. A 10 to 30% tariff isn't going to cause shortages. And it may not push the whole economy into recession. What it does do is take it raises prices for working people, and it takes the burden of government and it moves it from people who are better positioned to pay onto the people least positioned to pay. So you have to combine this tariff story with what the Republicans are doing in the House, where there's going to be giant tax cuts for everybody, financed in great part by these tariffs on low-income people. Last image. Think of a rich family and a poor family at dinner. The poor family. The table is tariffed. The chair is tariffed. The plate is tariffed. The knives and forks are tariffed. If they're eating pasta, the pasta comes from Canada. It's tariffed. Now the rich family, they go out to dinner. The most important to celebrate their new tax cut from Donald Trump. The most important cost at a restaurant is the rent, not tariffed. The second most important cost, the wage of the chef, the wage of the server, not tariffed. And the plates, they're tariffed, but they come from Italy. So they have a lower tariff than the plates that come from China. This is the most aggressive attempt to shift the cost of government from the rich to the poor that America has seen in the past century, maybe longer.
David Frum, what is the appropriate political response?
The appropriate political response is to discover the cause of free trade. There's been a lot of mealy-mouthedness from Democrats on this. Democrats have liked tariffs. Donald Trump, the most protectionist president since World War II. Joe Biden, second most protectionist president. A lot of Democrats say, I'm against these tariffs because they're dumb, but I'm for smart tariffs. The answer is to rediscover tariffs are a tax that falls heaviest on the poorest people. They're a tax that is the most dangerous tax because it's the most arbitrary tax. Tariffs are wrong. Free trade is right. And raise money. If you're going to raise money with a consumption tax, raise it on one that middle-class people pay by taxing services as well as goods, a VAT or a carbon tax. But don't make the people who are eating spaghetti on cheap chairs, on cheap tables, with cheap plates, with cheap knives, don't make them pay the cost of government all by themselves.
Kudos to David Frum. There's a couple of things that he missed, right? He spoke about those companies that are able to make deals with Donald Trump so that they don't pay the tariffs, and that's why the stock market is up, and etc. What he doesn't point out that there is a section within the business community. These are people that are fairly well off, but they work their business. They're not parasitic like corporations. You know, I really do a number on corporations because, again, they are parasitic in nature. They are the borrowers of indentured servitude and what I call antiseptic slavery. And I mean that. When I talk about it that way, a lot of people think I'm being hyperbolic, etc. I am not. I distinctly mean what I said about how corporations actually function. Now, for those who think that somehow I'm anti-business, I'm not. I want you to see the businesses that will get hurt, because these are the businesses that I support. These are the businesses that make America function. These are the businesses that employ more people than any of these major corporations, who get all the benefits from our tax dollars, who get all the benefits from ripping us off our resources, from oil to carbon to natural resources that should naturally belong to we the people, that they extract and they profit from and give crumbs to the rest. Again, the businesses that we should really be concerned about are the smaller businesses. Think about it. Thousands of businesses are about to go out of business. These are well off people. Some of them are millionaires. Some of them have been doing their business. They make a good living. They employ people and pay them a good price. But these are people that import small amounts of products from China and from other places. That is the base model of their business. And now, when major corporation is able to make a deal, remember what Frum said, they will be able to make a deal and not raise price. Bessett called the head of Walmart and said, "Hey, eat some of these taxes, etc. Keep the prices the same." What do you think Walmart's going to do? Walmart is going to say, "You know what? I can actually do that, because in sort of keeping some of the prices the same, the competitors that are the small businesses, they won't be able to do the same, because they don't have pricing power, they don't have volume, they don't have any of that. So they'll go out of business. And as soon as they're out of business, then I can fly. Then I can raise my prices." Big corporations say. Brothers and sisters, the con that the oligarchy is putting on in fold right now is one that is not only going to hurt the poor, it's going to hurt that middle class or that lower class wealthy person who owns a small business that is dependent on bringing little glass bottles from China, bring in some plastic bottles from China, things that aren't made here in the United States anymore. These companies, many of them, their owners work hard, part of the business. They've amassed a well-deserved and earned fortune, but they're going out of business because, again, that's how this game in a plutocratic system is played. David Frum, his description did a great job. The one piece missing is what happens to that small business. And that's the one critique I had on what he had to say. He did, because he's an outright free trader. Now, I'm not an outright free trader because, if in Vietnam, the reason they can sell shrimp at a better price than the United States shrimper can get it is caused by, no environmental controls, etc. You have to do some balancing in certain specific areas. So I'm not laissez-faire. Laissez-faire means the poor losing, maybe not in the form of tariffs, but they lose in the form of, we don't have businesses over here that can compete appropriately. Anyway, I'll continue with this, but beforehand, I want to welcome Adam W. from PA on Substack. We also have Lana Foley, LBW, from the great part here, Kingwood, Texas. We also have Parabet, Define Nice, Lil Getty, Christine, Jane B, Adam W., Pamela White. We also have Charles Bond. Welcome aboard. As more come in, I'll go ahead and say hi for those that I see. We also have in the regular chat Joe from Los Angeles, California, Squirrely Connie, Harry Denson. Hey, Harry, how you doing, buddy, in the chat? Wow. We also have Lisa Blair. I know Lisa is from, I think, Georgia. And I don't know where Squirrely Connie is from. But anyway, welcome aboard, folks. We are actually here and gonna talk some important stuff. Now, the tariffs. There are two big things happening in right now, and that is the tariffs and of consequence of tariffs and the budget. Well, the budget went through last night. It failed on Friday, and it went through last night. Trump got his people in office with Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and they came to a deal to just allow it to go forward, even though for these 4 or 5 Republicans that were blocking it, were blocking because it wasn't draconian enough. The cuts were not draconian enough, and they want a balanced budget. And look, let me tell you, the last person who balanced the budget was Bill Clinton, a Democrat, and the previous before that again, Democrat. Again, like I said, if you follow history, the budget has always done better under Democrats. As Donald Trump folks went on TV yesterday and they were talking about, hey, guess what? The big problem is Biden left a big deficit. Well, actually, Biden left a smaller deficit than Donald Trump. Donald Trump ridiculously had a huge deficit that he doesn't like to talk about, created by his $4 trillion, or I think it was $2 trillion tax cut that he did the first time around, and now they're trying to do a tax cut on steroids again, and which raises the our federal debt by over 2.5 or more trillion dollars. The things that they fail to tell you is that because we are putting such a demand on paper, which means we have to collect so much more money that we are not collecting in taxes, we have to go to rich people and other countries to borrow that money, which means we're going to pay more for that money, which means the deficit balloons even larger. Because look, I don't know if you guys realize it, but whenever we're paying our bills, the the budget, the first $1 trillion go to rich people. In other words, all of us pay into that our taxes, and the first $1 trillion of those taxes go to rich people who loan us money that we didn't collect from them over the years in taxes. I want you guys to understand that concept. Think about that. Think about this. When we write our budget, think of a pie chart. On that pie chart, $1 trillion, and I think that's what, probably a fourth, fifth of the budget or so, $1 trillion immediately goes out the door, not to provide services for that older person, not to provide education for somebody, not to provide for our military, not to provide for our environment, not to provide for absolutely anything. It is just your dollars because of the budget that, again, these guys come up with, most Republicans not wanting to tax the wealthy. That money goes directly into their pockets. So they get a benefit twice. You cut their taxes, so that's extra money that they have. And then to cut their taxes, you had to deficit spend so you can pay Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, and all these other programs, the environment, the spaceships, all of that. To pay for that, you got to borrow money again from wealthy people and other countries. So they get money from what they loan you because you're going to pay them an interest rate that is secure. And now that we're begging for a lot more money, that interest rate goes up higher. So even more goes to the rich. That's the biggest transfer of wealth, your wealth, to the top, because we don't want to charge these guys taxes. And again, they don't quite tell you that in that form, but we are paying them 3 or more times because that tax cut that we afforded them, that tax cut that we afforded the corporation, causes their stock prices to rise. So they make more money as those stock prices rise. But wait a minute, there's another way that they make more money too. Because whereas as an employee, as a worker, as what I call an antiseptic slave, you pay up to 37% of your earned income in taxes. As you make more, you pay up to 37% in your taxes. But guess what? If what you got is the appreciation of your stock, if you sell your stock, you may pay 20 something percent. But it gets better. You don't ever have to sell your stock because you can go to an insurance company and get a loan on your stock so that You don't have to sell it, and that's a loan that you never pay back. It's just backed by your stock, so you never pay any interest on it. I mean, you never pay any taxes on it as you spend like the wealthy person that you are. And when you die, all that stock now can be transferred because of this new tax bill. They have increased what's known as estate taxes. So whereas 2 point something percent of rich people used to have to, when they transfer their estate to their offspring, they would have to pay taxes on that, and that's fair, right? In other words, life is for the living. When you transfer wealth from one generation to the next, that means the next generation has gotten a big earning not worked for, so it is should be taxed, and it should be taxed much higher than a person who worked and earned their money's income. Not because of your zip code or your bloodline should it determine within an economic system how wealthy you're going to be. I mean, I can understand building up wealth for your family, but excessive wealth, whatever that is defined as, that creates an issue. It creates an imbalance, a mathematical imbalance. And I repeat, it's a mathematical imbalance that's not sustainable, right? It causes the accumulation of wealth. It's math, right? Eventually, if you can transfer and transfer that way, eventually there's nothing left based on growth for anyone else. It's math. It's math. So you have to put controls into the economic system to prevent that. Estate taxes is one of them. High taxes on a particular level of income is another way to prevent that, because capitalism inherently has several flaws that can only be mitigated with these types of regulations. So as it turns out now, they also make money from not having to pay capital gain taxes and going ahead and getting insurance companies and others to loan them money based on their stock, which means you don't pay any money on loans. All these tricks the wealthy use not to pay any taxes. And by the way, it's wrong because, again, they take more resources than anyone else. The coal mine, the oil mine that they dig in and then leave when they're done for us to clean up. Look, we have to get with the program. Yesterday I sent out a mailer, and in it I said, it is clutch time. It is clutch time. And welcome aboard. I saw a couple of folks that I wanted to say. Gayla Kunis, I think for Atlanta. We also have somebody came in from a town I hadn't heard of before. But thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. And likewise on the chat, we have Lisa says she is from Atlanta, Georgia. And Miss T. Marie, 38 from North Carolina. Thank you for being here. I wrote an article or an article yesterday. It's called, and I named it "It is Clutch Time." Are you with me? And are you with a movement? It is not fait accompli. This is the time that one must inform, activate, engage, demand, and win. That's the only way to save your country. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is projecting confidence that the Trump tax scam is all but assured. It is a poker move to force hesitant Republicans to stop their objections and join the field or join the fold. The most important question: who will the small number of thinking Republicans who know that sacrificing their constituents may cost them their jobs follow? That question cannot yet be answered. Who ensures the question is answered correctly? Who ensures that question is answered correctly? Who will the small number of thinking Republicans who know that sacrificing their constituents may cost them their jobs? The answer to that question is only determined by you, everybody that's listening. As a host, as a person at a radio station that that, I can't tell you what to do, but can just inform you, can say that here is what folks should really know. A significant part of the audience that we have here are ideologically diverse. You hear people call here and critique from the right part of view or from the left point of view, but we have, luckily, an ideologically diverse listener base. So here's the deal. When Donald Trump won again in 2024, the pulse was that of a panicked people. More than half of folks started to panic. I watched that panic evolve into anger. While one sees a lot of activism and determination from many, unfortunately, watching anger fork into acceptance, resignation, and acquiescence is a problem. Because that means, like it happens in a lot of third world countries, people just lose that effort to fight. They just let things be. If they can survive, they just survive. And that is the position that many places, many countries are in. They just allow that oligarchy, that plutocracy to run amok. And as long as they can have their piece of bread and some relative calmness in wherever they are, they just resign themselves to that. There's there's not the constitutional guarantee of prosperity, happiness, fairness in that scenario. But the job that one should really want to play is, do I have the power to make that change? And my God, one still does. All of you still do. Because there's one thing every single one of those Republicans who are not get who are not going to get hired for big salaries, and you know all of the 218 necessary to get this bill passed are not going to get a cushy job if they don't get reelected. So some of them realize that their only path is reelection for them to have that amount of power that they like having. So you still have power. You can actually, oops, you can actually go in there and put the fear of losing into your congressperson. Right here in Kingwood, I'm so proud of these groups out here. They are reminding Dan Crenshaw, the local congressman, that they're here. Every Thursday, they're there pointing that out. Dan Crenshaw may not change his vote because, again, this district for him, he believes is fairly safe. Well, when these nursing homes, which we have quite a few of them in this Kingwood area in his district, realize that he's voting in many cases for their deaths, and that's not hyperbole, when you get less staff at a nursing home, when you don't have the ability of using a nursing home, that becomes deadly, and many will die. If that message can get to enough people, even in a district like where Crenshaw resides, where Crenshaw is the person of that district, don't you think he'll smell the tea leaves and find an interesting way of saying, well, I need X, Y, and Z, either not cut the Medicaid this way or else you can't have my vote? You still have the power. Now, if you don't exercise that power, I can't tell you to go do anything. That's not what we can do here. At 3 o'clock, I can. At 6, I can. I can't tell you to do that, but I can tell you what can be done in order for changes to be made, and you still have the power. I have one more video to play, but and I'm going to start taking calls. The telephone number is 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. Donald Trump can get a plane, Donald Trump can get a whole lot of things, but he's also willing to hurt those who brung him there.
With every passing day, Donald Trump is acting more like a despot, more like what we know he's always been. Now we're talking about June 14th. It seems like there's going to be a parade for supposedly for the 250th anniversary of the birthday of the Army. But of course, we know it's really the birthday of Donald Trump, and he's always wanted a military parade, and it seems like he's going to get one. So we'll go ahead and have tanks and big trucks rolling through the streets of D.C., and they're going to tear up the streets, even as one general says, maybe not all that bad. Whatever the case is, it's going to cost money. So here we got something that's going to cost us over $45 million to have a parade for the president, as we cut veterans administrations, as we cut Medicaid, as we cut a lot of social services. But we have big banners around Washington, D.C. to really say, to the president, to the president. And now we have a $400 million airplane, 747, that was given to the president that he now wants us to turn into Air Force One, so that later on he can take the plane into the Trump library and fly it whenever he wants to fly. Folks, don't you get the grift? And it's not just the grift. He wants us to pay for his grift. Check this little report out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Tim, this parade, as we've said, could cost up to $45 million at a very uncertain time in the economy. This, when the president has suggested, look, Americans buy few kids' dolls, fewer pencils. What message does it send, though, that it's okay for him to have a birthday celebration of this magnitude, but kids should cut down on the number of dolls they get?
Yeah, well, that's not a great message. I don't think if it's getting through to folks, Alex. I think that's part of the question, is if we live in these different bubbles of information. To me, just like on the merits of it, the amount of money that you're spending on this, when you're talking about the firing of federal government workers, you're talking about the firing of employees at DOD, across the military. And we're doing it simultaneously. We're having this big debate on the Hill that you guys have been covering, where the Republicans are trying to pass a bill that will increase the debt, by $6+ trillion. So together it is just incoherent, right? It's like we don't have enough money to pay for people that work at the VA. We need to cut some of our VA employees. And yet we do have enough money to throw a birthday party for the president where he gets to look at his shiny toys. And we do have enough money to cut taxes for the richest people in the country, and in a way that does not balance the budget, in a way that balloons the debt. It's like taken together, I think it's a pretty offensive policy program. It's just a question of whether, folks will interpret it like that.
General, this $45 million price tag, it does not include the cleanup or the expected repairs from damage to Washington's roads from the heavy tank traffic. Now, you just said previously that you don't think they will do any damage. I'm going to beg to differ, just because of numerous people with whom I've spoken said it will cause some damage. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong, but give me a sense of the damage that can be caused by a tank on just the general asphalt roads, and what could be left behind.
Well, look, I spent much of my life in tank mech units. We have Reforger all over Europe and ran tanks down every street, cobblestone street in Europe. By and large, a tank, unless it turns sharply to the left or right, has a lower ground footprint on it than a 5-ton truck. So they're going to bring those vehicles in on tank transporters called HETs. They're going to try and not have them do pivot steer and go left or right. If they do some damage at turning points, they'll have to repair it. But I think that's a wrong argument. I think the right argument, the one that Tim makes, to look at it in a political sense, it just makes no sense. It's not part of the American culture. This isn't Bastille Day. We normally don't run heavy equipment in parades. By the way, the New York City parade after Desert Storm was 24,000 troops. So this is not a significant event, except that it's a politically boneheaded move to hijack an event for the 250th birthday of our proud U.S. Army and have it enhance the president's birthday, which sounds creepy to most of us.
Yeah. Do you think that message will get through, Tim? You suggested it's not getting through necessarily yet, but do you think it will? I mean, you think he might say something right around June 14th, don't you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, and combine it with other stuff, and that's the thing. It's always compounding with Trump, and it's everything about politics. Look, you're getting this free plane from the Qataris that costs $400 million that we're going to have to now. The taxpayers have to pay for making fancier for him. You have this big, I don't know if you've seen this big banner of Trump's face outside of the U.S. Department of Agriculture that looks like it's a third world despot, like where you kind of land in a third world country, and you have the Caudillo's face is up on all the government buildings. Right. So I think if you combine all these things together, it is creepy. There are going to be MAGA people that like it, but I do think that some folks are going to be turned off by this because it's not our culture, as the generals pointed out.
Now, this is ridiculous. Yeah, it's not our culture, and it's a minority of people in this country who support all these shenanigans the president is doing. So what do I have to say right now? Americans, it's time for you to get up. It's time for you to engage. It's time for you to call all your Congress people and let them know this is completely acceptable. It's still in your hands because you know who has the power of the purse? Congress. And you know who controls Congress? You do. It's time for us to wake up. It is time.
Wake up, folks. Wake up. Make the changes that you want to make. Welcome aboard, Jacqueline Campisi from Katy, Texas. Welcome aboard, Cheryl Elkins, who says, Massachusetts reporting in. Romania choosing sanity and saying no to their right-wing extremists is good news to start the week. The world is fighting tyranny. Exactly. I'm going to Patrick in a minute. Beforehand, let me say, Randall Baxley. May I mention Memorial Day ceremony? Of course you can mention Memorial Day ceremony. Absolutely. Let's go to Brother Patrick. Patrick, come on in.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
Have we touched on the fact that this tax bill went through, and the two of the very few things that was offered or promised to the middle class did not change? The policy or the taxation on overtime did not change, and the taxation on tips did not change.
Let me just say this. We did touch on that, and there's one piece of the Washington Post article that I was looking for that specifically in the Washington Post article, and according to them, the current bill has the no tax on tips piece in there. Okay. Again, of course, I haven't seen. Yeah. Okay. Here's what I read. Here's what's inside of the Post article. It says the massive package forms a centerpiece of Trump's second term agenda. In addition to extending Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which are set to expire in December, the bill would make good on Trump's campaign promises to end tax on tips, overtime wages, and auto loan interest, while directing hundreds of billions of dollars in spending to immigration enforcement, defense, and other White House priorities. But remember, this is a bill that is going to the Rules Committee, and the same guys that object to the bill, they don't want that in the bill. So, I mean, it's been back and forth with those two items in the bill. I would wager that they'll have some instantiation of that in the bill, and I will wager that they are going to really continue to try to screw the folks in blue states and deducting their taxes, even though blue states are supporting red states. It's amazing, isn't it? Continue, Patrick.
Well, I appreciate the correction. My information is that at least two people went on record saying that it was not in there. So
this
maybe
occurred. This occurred at 10 last night. I don't know if maybe you read the one before 10 last night, because it was a changing before the vote. These guys couldn't get their act together, so it was just changing. So you know how that goes. Anything else, my brother?
Yeah, well, we can feel better about the parade because it's only projected. It's only going to cost what we're projecting 1/20th of what the president will spend on golfing over 4 years.
Okay, Patrick. That's a good
There's
one.
a bright side to everything.
That's a good one. I love that one. That's a good one, brother. All right, look, man. I'll see you at 3 o'clock. All right.
Yes, sir.
Take care, my brother. All right, let's see. Let's go to Ilan. Ilan, how you doing, my brother? Talk to me.
Oh, this is Alana Puram from Policies Begin Left. I wanted to bring up, mention that the 104th anniversary at the end of this month of the Tulsa race massacre occurred. That could cost $40 million in today's money, but 10,000 people were made homeless, and the Greenwood section of Tulsa was burned by the rioting mobs and so forth. You can read a very lengthy, detailed account on Wikipedia. So if you enter Tulsa race massacre into Wikipedia, you can see the pictures and everything else there. But that occurred 104 years ago, and we're still looking for reparations.
Yeah, and a couple of bills people attempted, and it got turned down. One, I think they won something a few years ago, and the Supreme Court, either the Supreme Court or the Oklahoma court, I don't know which one it was, turned it down. Shame, but hey, most Americans don't learn this in high school, and especially now with the burning of books, getting rid of books, and trying to eliminate wokeness. None of this stuff is being learned by Americans, which is it's a very sad thing. Thank you for this, Elan. Elan. All right. Anything else, Elan? Okay. All right. Let's go to Augie. Come on in, Augie.
And Trump, he's already a known liar. When last time he was president, what he took home as souvenir was classified boxes of information, a whole lot of them, that he showed off to his billionaire buddies, and that it was said that he was holding them so he could sell them off to other countries that aren't friendly to the United States. And Hillary Clinton, when Bill Clinton was in office, she was given a necklace, and she couldn't keep it because it was given by a foreign government. And she can't keep a necklace, but if Trump, a convicted liar, convicted felon and a known liar, can keep a plane, there's something wrong here. And he's also one of the he talks about how smart he is, but one of the professors at his college, when he was interviewed, thought he remembers Trump real well because Trump was the stupidest student he ever had in all his years of teaching at that college. And so this is the guy that's leading our country. And he's even talking about running again for another term. And that's what people need to know. And just thought to remind people about that.
Interesting enough, Augie, the administration that wants to get rid of DEI to support MEI has, first of all, is run by likely the least qualified person, and his cabinet loaded with some of the least qualified people. Oh, didn't we have a Department of Education person who thought AI was A1 steak sauce? Actually, she just said A1. Don't we have a guy who is a drunk running our Defense Department that likes to, violate women as well? Wow. I mean, well, we can go down the line. Don't we have a supremacist working as the one of the lawyers in DC for? I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. But thank you, Augie. I'm filling up, and I need to try to get everybody through. So you have a wonderful rest of your day, my brother.
Oh, yeah. Also, I'm a veteran, and he's also cutting funding for the VA and the Veterans Hospital. So it's going to be longer for veterans to get hospital care. And of
Well,
all the veterans that voted for Trump, remember that.
you know, there's something. I don't just say we thank you for your service. A lot of these right wingers love to say we thank you for your service. If they really thanked you for their service, they'll be doing what most of us are doing here in this kind of work, trying to make sure that you guys get what you've earned. Thank you, brother. Have a great one. Let's go to Johnny.
Bye-bye.
Here's my question. I don't know if you guys brought this up or not. I came in late to the conversation, but I've noticed a lot of comments on the internet. No one's brought this point up, so I'll bring it up. Don't we have to cut that old plane open in order to get all the office furniture and all that crap out of there, and then check for bugs and put new equipment, the defensive equipment in there? And doesn't that cost more money? Wouldn't it be more efficient to build a one or two? Wait a minute. They've already got one or two more planes on the assembly line right now that are slated to become Air Force Ones. And by the way, he's not going to have that refurbished aircraft ready by the time he leaves office anyway. So why should we have to pay for any of that? Let him pay for it out of his own time.
And $1 billion at that. Look, let me tell you. First of all, we did cover that, Johnny, a couple days ago. Number two, yes, it'll cost more to dismantle the plane and put it back together. I mean, labor is. I mean, that is a ridiculous proposition. That plane cannot be converted for defense use because it's not. It people think about it. It's like, well, the airframe is already there, but the airframe for the Air Force One it's not a 747 airframe. It's a modified 747 airframe because again, it has to have the countermeasures that have to be installed, and all of these have to be done without creating cracks in the fuselage, which means it's a specialized framework that does it. You can't just drill a hole in the skin of a plane. Cracks propagate. It brings down. You can't just. I mean, all the places that you can drill that you see are not the actual structural airframe. The actual structural airframe, you build it, and then when it's built to spec, etc., you don't want to be drilling in that stuff. It's not the way
Wait,
you
what about
do
speed?
things.
What about
Exactly.
speed? What about stealth?
Exactly.
A gigantic plane compared to the current Air Force One, does that present a security issue when you're evading an enemy?
Yes,
How
all
does
of
it
that
evade
is
enemies
true.
so big?
It's not going to happen, okay, John? It's not going to happen. And if it happens, we've fallen further than I thought. All right. Thank you, Johnny. We got to go to Brother Bruce.
They need to pay. They cost us money. That's it.
There you go. Take care, brother. We'll speak to you tomorrow. Let's go to Brother Bruce. Come on in, Bruce.
Good morning, Alberto. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
Has anyone considered organizing a counter parade of the people on the same day to try to take some media attention away? I'd like to see something like that. And the other thing is, I saw that underground tape of Trump celebrating the tax cut. You know, he was doing Pete Hegseth at the strip bar imitation. He got his fat self up on the table and started dancing. Pam Gandhi walked into the room and said, "Nice legs." He said, "You think so?" She goes, "Yeah, most tables would have collapsed." I'm done, bye.
Bruce always has one to finish us up with. Thank you for that, Bruce. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Brian, come on in.
Yes, good morning. I hope everyone had a good weekend.
Yes, we did.
Here's something to think about. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's fine.
Yeah, here's something to think about. Your transgendered friends. Instead of a man calling himself a woman and beating the crap out of another woman, why don't you have your own transgendered sports games? That way men can beat the crap out of other men and not call themselves a woman. You ever thought about that?
Not really, because they're not. Why is it that what made you so obsessed with the transgender issue, Brian? What is it that brought that into your what within society brought that amount of effort that many of you put into the transgender issue? Do you know that the amount of transgenders, let's say folks in school in Houston, can probably fit on your two hands. Did you know that?
About the same hatred that you have for Donald Trump,
No,
President
no.
Donald Trump.
But
That
wait.
same type of hatred
Let me
and
let me.
obsession.
I asked a specific question, right? That transgender person doesn't have any power over you. Donald Trump has power over me and everybody else, and the outcome. What can be the outcomes of my life, your life, and everybody else's life? There is a distinct difference between your obsession with a tiny number of transgenders and the amount of effort that you place on it. Why don't you why aren't you concerned with, let's say, that a lot of people are going to die from this bill? Why don't you ever consider that insurance companies, with the way they're implemented, harm a lot of people? Why don't you think about, with the cut in Medicaid, a lot of rural hospitals are going to close and more people are going to die? Why is it that you're not thinking about those things? And I can tell you why. You're not thinking about those things because the people that you listen to, they want to get you so upset and mad that the things that matter, where they're really ripping you off, you don't have the time because you're so obsessed with transgender. You're so obsessed with the fallacy of woke.
Why
You're
do you
so
continue to
obsessed with
talk?
I'm not
Why do
done.
you think
You're so obsessed with DEI. So tell me, why are those the cases, sir?
you're talking about gibberish? That's all you're talking about.
Which one? What have I said? What have
What
hold on, Brian.
hospital did it close?
Since you're Brian, hold on. Tell me. You said I'm talking
Interject.
gibberish.
Interject.
Since I'm talking
You are.
gibberish, I don't want to lose him yet. Let me ask you this, Brian. What have I said thus far that isn't true? I just named you that
Okay.
cutting Medicaid would close rural hospitals. Is that true or false?
That is false.
Okay.
That is
Uh,
absolutely false.
and tell me, how do you know that?
It
What
happened
makes you
already.
think that's
When did it?
what?
When did the
Hmm.
Cleveland Hospital close? What was the first time the Cleveland Hospital closed?
Okay.
2014. Was it not?
Brian,
What
again,
year?
you have a wonderful day, Brian, because it's clear that you are unable to reason, my brother. We speak tomorrow. I know I'll hear from you tomorrow. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And the reason I kind of entertain Brian a little bit longer is to show something. As we move forward, here's what's going to happen. There are some people, and I have a couple in the chat as well. They're immutable. There's nothing, facts don't matter, numbers don't matter, none of that matters. And I can't change that. You can't change that. There are some people, that's how they're wired. They're wired that way. Facts don't mean anything. Even as they're bloodied and they're being killed, they just, their minds work that way. But luckily for us, that's not the majority of people in this country. That's not the majority of people in the world. There will always be Brian's out there. There will always be the Eric Hayes out there, where logic means absolutely nothing, where facts actually means nothing. We can live with those folks because
Hey,
when we
Eduardo,
yes, sir.
there's a phrase for that. Swallow
Which
an
one?
elephant, choke on a gnat.
I
Swallow
never
an
heard
elephant.
that.
Oh yeah, swallow an elephant. The rural hospitals closing, Medicare being cut to shreds, old people being dumped out in the middle of the street. That's the elephant. Oh, the transgender. That's the gnat.
Yeah.
Brian, you're swallowing
Yeah.
an elephant and choking on a gnat.
It is amazing, right? But like I said, the thing about it is, one of the reasons we want to entertain something like Brand is because there are a lot of people who are they are making they have Brian's stance because those are the facts that the supposed facts that they hear. But when they hear the logic later on, they're open to change their minds. And that is what we want to do. We don't want to hate on those people who have bad information. We want to, for those who are willing to accept new information, that's who we want to talk to. That's who we want to get to. But I have no illusions that folks like Brian or Eric Hayes would ever think logically. I have no expectation of that. But their illogical thinking allows me to talk to those who have been thinking like them because of bad information. And that can make our day. That can actually help us move forward. Margaret Ryan, welcome aboard. Great to have you here. Uh, John A. doing a lot of writing as well as Adam W. Thank you guys for keeping that chat very active. And let's see what else have we got here. Glenn, I don't think I saluted you. Glenn, I want to say something because Glenn hits me up for a whole lot because of Israel and Gaza not speaking up enough about that, and I have to agree with him. Um, Maybe I'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow because I'm out of time right now. So let me throw it to the studio before I get back.
Oh, I've already put in my 2 cents. Jack, what do you got? Jack's got something here.
45 million on a parade.
Yay! Am I invited? Can I go watch some of this? Watch the Donald stand up there with his little nose stuck out, going, "I am so proud of America. Look at what they're doing for me." Oh, can I puke now?
I am sure that he would want you to go because he's obsessed with numbers, man. So he would love if all of you guys go to that military parade. And even those that are going for the military parade, they're not going for him. They're going for to honor the military,
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's true. So obsessed with numbers, he's watching his fall. The popularity numbers in the tank.
In the tank, and
That's
it's
all I
going to
got.
continue to go in the tank. All right, folks. Let's see. Got to get out of here, but I want to say the rest of the program you can watch at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can write me directly, email me directly at it would be kpft@politicsdoneright.com. kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Love you all. I mean, all of you. You too, Brian. Look, my name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.